Hey Dad, so today I'm going to go over your basic cleaning and maintenance for your firearm. I've already kind of done a one over on this to get most of the main carbon out from when Julianne and I went shooting, but there's still going to be a little residual carbon in here that I'm going to use to show you of areas you're going to want to pay attention to and give a little more focus, and areas inside your firearm where you're going to see wear. That way you understand that just because the paint's coming off in some areas doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just giving evidence that it's been fired, basically. So the first thing we're going to do, as always, is we're going to verify that our weapon is clear and safe. Good to go. One point that I like to do is called a 4-point check. And the basic way to do it is to go safety, magazine, chamber, and then back to your safety. So that fourth point can be whichever one that you want. You can double check your safety, double check your magazine well, double check your chamber. I personally just like to double check my mechanical safety to ensure that even if I do pull on this trigger and there is a round in the chamber, that's going to stop me. But because I am a responsible gun owner, I'm going to 100% verify that there is not a round in this chamber. So now that we've done this and we know that it's clear and safe, we're going to break it apart just like I showed you in the last video. Take our slide detacher there, bring it forward, safety off, and because we verified that our chamber is empty, we are able to pull the trigger, take it apart. Now that we've got it into its two basic groups, your trigger assembly and magazine well, and your slide assembly, we are going to go over the slide assembly first on cleaning it. So to take this apart, we're going to pull our spring, take that out, and then take out our barrel. So some things that you're going to see as far as wear with your barrel here is right here on this slide, you're going to see some silver here, and that's just from rounds being chambered and being shot. So there's no concern with that anywhere. For your slide assembly, you're going to start seeing wear right up here on this edge, and you might find a little bit on the insides of your railings here where it sits on top of this. And if you are seeing any of that, it just means you need to add a little more lubrication the next time you clean it. But it's nothing too serious as far as the maintenance goes. Now we're going to go to our trigger assembly. For some areas to show some visible wear are going to be here on your front and your rear rails. And this is just showing that your slide is moving back and forth as it's being shot. So we're going to go back up here to our barrel, and when we clean these, some areas we're going to focus on is right here, obviously, in your chamber where the round is being chambered and shot. So we just go through, we give it a little clean and a rub down, and we'll clean inside the barrel in just a moment. But right now, we're just touching up every spot that we can. We're going to inspect as we do it to make sure that there is nothing here that would interfere with us shooting. Make sure there's no cracks or nicks in your barrel. You're going to look inside at what is called your rifling, which is where, if you look inside, it's kind of got a spiral design to it. And that just helps the bullet fly a little straighter, as that it'll spin the round on the inside. So you just make sure that that's good to go. Now, with our slide, same thing. We're going to touch up the areas that we know are going to rub up against other spots. So our railing especially, for these kind of tighter areas, it's good to use a Q-tip. But since we're just doing some basic maintenance here, we're not going to be too worried about it. I'm just going to use my nail and slide it through our areas here. And as you can see, there's still a good amount of carbon and dirt and oil and grease in these areas. Even after cleaning it a few times, It's okay to have a little bit of this. You just don't want so much to where it gunks up your rifle and you can't shoot. So we've gone over that. For our coil and spring, there's not too much you need to do with it. You just wipe it down a little bit with some cloths, and then you keep on going. So we're gonna go here to our trigger and magazine well assembly. We're just gonna clean the inside a little bit. Just like on our slide and barrel, we're gonna touch up the areas that we know are gonna be in contact often. Just make sure that they're not broken, cracked, anything that would interfere with us safely shooting this firearm. So now that we have done all of that, one thing that I like to do while I'm cleaning this is I'll inspect inside here. You can kind of see into your trigger assembly, and you'll see some springs and levers. What I like to do is I'll pull the trigger and I'll watch this assembly here move. And I'll make sure that there's nothing in it that's interfering or blocking or something that might damage it, because this is what's going to fire your weapon. So everything's good and clean there. So now that we got all that out of the way, we're gonna actually clean our barrel now. Now that we've done kind of our more simple cleaning, we're gonna take one of our smaller cloths here, rip a little piece of that off. We're gonna grab this sort of cleaning tool, and just like you would thread the needle with yarn, you're just gonna thread your needle with this. Attach it to your front. Now, instead of just spraying down your cloth, which you can do, but not really necessary, I like to spray down the barrel instead. So you're gonna grab your CLP. I like to use Lucas Oil CLP just because it's very good at cleaning and doing what it does. So take the top off. Give it a few sprays on the inside there. Let's get one more. There we go. Then we're gonna take our little piece here, thread it through the barrel, go in and out a few times. It's really gonna lubricate everything up and start to break it down. As you can see, it's already starting to get a little dirty and gross. So what I'm gonna do next, because I have shot this and it's gonna have a little more wear than yours will, obviously, I'm gonna find the right size here. Let's go back to this one. I'm going to use this to scrape the inside to break up any more carbon that's just in there and possibly messing around. Do that. There we go. Take this piece back off. Place this one back on. Same thing. Give it a few goes in here. We're going to grab a clean one. Do the same process again. What this is going to do is it's going to take that CLP out as much as possible. Obviously there's going to be some in there, which is perfectly fine. That's going to actually help protect our barrel from rust and everything else. We're just going to clean out kind of that excess stuff. As you can see, it's already getting kind of dirty. And then you'll look down your barrel, inspect it, make sure there's no gunk, any dirt left, which this is nice and clean now. Now that we've done that, we're going to start on our slide here. Same thing with the CLP. Give it a few good sprays here. And this time I'm going to use one of our bigger cloths. There we go. We're going to clean all of this out. Just a touch up in everywhere that you can find. Give it a little clean. Now it's going to take a while for you to properly clean your firearm, and that's fine. So one thing that I like to do when I'm cleaning these is put on a show or put my headphones in and just listen to some music and just focus on what I'm doing. Make sure that everything in here is clean, free of debris, and most importantly that it's safe. I'm going to clean up on the top here. Here's another spot that you might want to kind of go over, just because of from shooting it, that excess powder is going to go into the air and it's going to end up here on your slide. So you're just going to give everything a good touch. There we go. This looks pretty good, just for a simple clean. And then like we did with the barrel, we're going to come back with another clean cloth. Just give it another wipe down, kind of take up the excess CLP while leaving a nice kind of thin layer on there of it. Looking pretty good. A few fingerprints just because I've got CLP on my hands now, but that's fine. So we got these two out of the way. With your coil, just like we've been saying, just a little scrub down of it. No real need for CLP on this at the moment because this is still fairly clean. So next to our trigger and magazine assembly, let's see here, which one do I want to use? We'll go with another big one. Spray this down as well. Just like we did with the other two spots. We'll scrub everything that we can touch. Don't be afraid to get your fingers in here. You might get poked by something, but I promise you it's not going to hurt. Now it's the areas like this where a Q-tip works really well. Just kind of get in there. You can see some of that dirt and grime. Let's use a Q-tip for this part here, up here as well. Now one thing that I do know of a few people that they like to use baby wipes on spots like this when it comes to cleaning. And that is all good and well, but you want to do that before you spray on your CLP and definitely before you do anything with like a gun oil. We're just using this to kind of clean off all the extra little dirt and gunk that you're going to normally find from shooting a gun. Swap back over to this side. If you notice, I'm kind of going over everything once, twice, sometimes 3 times. And that's just to make sure that I got as much of everything as I can on the first go. We're gonna come back to our handy little cloth here. Wipe off all the excess. So now we have almost completely completed our cleaning here. Don't need this anymore. So the last thing that we're going to do is go over everything that's going to rub up against each other with some gun oil. So with the Lucas gun oil, this stuff is very good. It's also a lot goes a long way basically with this. So what I do is I'll take my top off of the oil here and I just touch just a little bit right where those wear signs are, where I know the gun's going to be rubbing up against this. Touch there. This is your ejector. So once your slide comes back to eject around, this is actually what stops it from going any farther and pushes it out. So a little touch right there. It's fine. A little right there. So now we've done that. We're gonna come to our slide assembly. And I sort of just do 2 dots on this side, 2 dots on this side, and then 4 dots on this side. Because this is a really good oil that I use. The oil that you might use may not be as strong or potent, so it's okay if you just do a line completely across. You're gonna have some excess oil, but that's what our microfiber towel is gonna be for. So I'm just going to do my touch, 2 here, 3 here, and then 4 here. Doesn't really matter where you put the oil with something like this. You just want to make sure it's in an area to where once you start racking your slide back and forth a little bit, it's going to spread out evenly. For your barrel here, don't really need oil with it because all the oil is going to be in here and in here. But if you want to add oil, I would add just a little bit to your barrel here, and I'm not even squeezing this, I'm just kind of tapping it and letting any sort of excess oil out. And the reason I do it here is because it's going to be sliding across your hole here. So just to make sure that there's no wear and tear, we'll just place some there. So for your coil, obviously we passed doing CLP with it because it's not really necessary in this area. We do touch it up with some gun oil though, just to make sure it doesn't get corroded. And what I do with this is I'll start on one side and I'll squeeze and just kind of roll it up. Quarter turn, squeeze and roll it up. And do the same thing until we've done one full revolution with that. And we place it back in its spot. Another area actually that you might want to do some gun oil before I forget is where it's going to seat. Just going to give it a little touch. Not too much, just a touch. Place that back in, just as so. We're going to come to our lower assembly. Slide everything together, slide to the back, forward, there we go. Now what I like to do is slide everything back and forth a little bit just to get all that oil moving around in there. Do a few dry fires with it, obviously making sure that it is clear and safe as always. Even though we just put this thing together, if you do it every time, there won't be a time that you don't do it. Yep. Now that we have it completely assembled back together and cleaned, we're going to take our microfiber towel here, or you can just use another old, like an old shirt. I know a guy who uses an old pair of underwear for his that he just cut the elastic off. But we're just going to clean any sort of excess oil or grease that's going to be sticking out from anywhere. And it's mainly just to make sure that it stays clean and that your oil is going to be inside of your firearm and not on the outside. Also, because oil is slippery. Last thing you want is to go to use your firearm and it's slipping around in your hands. So the last piece that I would say for you is to get yourself some sort of cleaning mat. Something like this. You can get this one at O'Reilly's. In fact, you can get the CLP and the gun oil at O'Reilly's as well. It's a good deal. It's a good kit and equipment to do simple cleaning and inspections. And even if you don't shoot your firearm often, you should at least clean it monthly, if not every other month, just depending on the environment that it's staying at. If it's somewhere closed off, somewhere clean, it's something you won't have to worry about too much. But if it's something that you're going to carry around and you know it's going to get some sweat and grime and any sort of dirt, you're going to want to clean it at least once a month, if not every 2 weeks or so. But other than that, that is your basic maintenance and cleaning of this firearm. So I hope, obviously, that you and Mom are doing good and that you guys are staying safe. And I'll see what I can do about coming home sometime. But with the virus and everything, we're not really sure at this moment. But I will let you know. So hope this helped. And let me know if you have any other questions.